The importance of statistics in planning, monitoring, and evaluation cannot be overemphasized. No meaningful development can take place without appropriate statistical data with which to measure or evaluate programs and policies.
In today's world, we are faced with situations every day where statistics can help save the day. Statistics have been used from time immemorial to determine the potential outcome of various and varying scenarios, either locally or internationally. Developmental plans and strategies are dependent on adequate and reliable statistics, as it goes a long way in determining their success or failure. Little wonder why governments around the world place a lot more emphasis on data to enable them manage their economies successfully.
The statistics, as we know, is a science of collecting, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting information. It has an amazing benefit to individuals, organizations, and governments, especially as it provides us with numerical information about our past and present so as to help us make predictions about the future.
Being able to make sound predictions about future events not only changes our lifestyle, but it also helps us become more efficient, effective, focused, and informed. With the recent developments in statistics in Nigeria and the increased need for data, it is evident that statistics is relevant in all sectors and means something to everyone. To governments and policymakers, socioeconomic data on the level of unemployment, poverty, and other living conditions are vital, making informed decisions to better lives. To an educationist, is information about numbers of students, enrollment rates, number of teachers, even schools and where they are to be located. To a farmer, accurate data on corporate yields, important for seasons and harvest, what to plant and what should be planted per time. To a household, it is information on prices of food items in the market, the cost of fueling the car, and of cost of airtime. Thus, it is not far-fetched anymore to say statistics and statistical analysis have become a necessity for life and living, and for government in particular, it has become a most valuable tool. Today, we share with you our history, our positioning within the African space, and our victories while leading in the implementation of a strategy for developing statistics, the challenges we wake up to every day, and how the future motivates us to conquer each one. It was once noted at a statistical conference, in just 4 decades, the systems of statistics in Africa went through 3 seismic waves. The first of this occurred immediately in the aftermath of decolonization. During this time, Africa experienced a decade of dramatic rise in the development of its systems of national statistics, particularly in the implementation of population, census, and household surveys. However, 2 decades later, by the 90s, Africa was dogged by dramatic declines and diminished levels of competence in its systems of statistics. Consequently, the proportion of countries that undertook a census in the 1980, 1990, and 2000 rounds of housing and population censuses in Africa compared to those in other regions of the world was significantly lower. Africa undermined the cornerstone for statistical development at a critical moment of its development. Towards the end of the decade of the 90s, however, statistical systems of a reasonable number of countries on the continent experienced rapid revival as democracy drove a new lease of life on the continent. By 2005, all the countries on the continent were conscious of the need for a system of statistics for their sovereign, including the commitment to conduct a census. The question is whether this third wave, consisting of revival in statistics, heralds new beginnings and sustained statistical systems in Africa, or like its predecessor cycle, Africa will witness yet a decline. What is the case for Nigeria? The precursor to the National Bureau of Statistics, the Federal Office of Statistics, FOS, was created as a government agency in 1929, but fell into decay in the 1980s due to poor government attention and funding, bad management, and out-of-date data production and management technologies. Workers suffered from very low morale and productivity, and a position at the FOS was often seen as punishment by civil servants. An institution once viewed as undependable and decaying is now generating data that provides valuable insights into the country's economy, thanks to better attention from government and a new management. Substantial developments can be seen in the areas of infrastructure and equipment, human resource management and development, and also improved data production methodology, data management dissemination, and access.
A popular saying is that he who fails to plan plans to fail. An essential part of planning is facts, and facts are based on data. There's a saying also that data doesn't lie. Without data, you cannot plan properly for any kind of development. Without knowing how many people are unemployed, what their ages are, what their educational qualifications are, you cannot develop appropriate policies that will be used by government to resolve that problem. And it goes on and on. There is a direct relationship between the quality of data in developed countries and how developed those countries are. And there's also a direct link between countries whose statistics offices are weak and the level of development. Because at the end of the day, if you are designing policies and programs without data, you are more or less dancing in the dark. The National Bureau of Statistics used to be the Federal Office of Statistics, and in 2005 there was a merger between the Federal Office of Statistics and the National Data Bank, and that's what formed the current National Bureau of Statistics. So technically we're a very young statistical agency, and with that, the National Bureau of Statistics was mandated by its act to be the official source of all government data on Nigeria, the authoritative source of data, and the custodian of all national data in the country. And it's the basis of this that policies and programs are supposed to be designed. In fact, without NBS's authority or stamp on any data that is produced, it ceases to be used by law as official Nigerian statistics. Well, NBS has gone, like I said, from the old Federal Office of Statistics, where things were done very, very manually. I think NBS has moved significantly forward. I'm not saying that things are we are now operating as on an international level, but a lot of progress has been made. For example, we are gradually moving from the use of paper questionnaires to computer-assisted personal interview systems. We are improving our data dissemination tools by using more modern technologies. Our website, from what I've been told by some officials in the World Bank, the data portal, I think an official in the World Bank suggested that there's no other African country whose statistical office actually has a data portal. And that's, again, something that you probably find in many more advanced countries. And the objective is better quality data, better dissemination of data, because at the end of the day, if you produce data and it's not used, then it ceases to be effective. So a lot of these improvements have been made at the NBS. Even the quality of our staff have improved in terms of the training that they go through. Many of them have many years of experience, and we believe that going forward, all we have to do is sustain this process of better quality data production, better quality and timely dissemination and effective distribution of data, and that is actually what makes a very good statistical office.
The positive transformation motivated the NBS to expand its scope through the National Strategy for Development of Statistics, NSDS, to cover both federal and state producers of statistics. The objective is to make the national statistical system in Nigeria one of the foremost and modern knowledge-based national statistical offices in Africa and the world at large.
The NSDS is the National Strategy for Development of Statistics. Like in any serious program, you need a corporate strategy that will dictate the process towards achieving what you want. Our target is to be a world-class statistical office, and the NSDS, should I say, is our manual or our guide that shows us what the things that we need to do from where we are currently when it started to where we want to go to. So the NSDS shows us clearly what needs to be done to take us to that position where we can execute our mandate as the National Bureau of Statistics effectively. The level of implementation of the NSDS is improving. It's not as good as it should be, largely as a result of various constraints, including financial and human capacity constraints. But I think compared to many other countries that have, in developing world, that have statistical strategies, I think relatively we're doing very well. But yes, we're not exactly where we should be at this particular point in time. But it's a process, and I'm happy with the progress it's making so far.
Unlike in the past, the data provided by NBS can now serve as reference for socio-economic development strategies. The department has moved from darkness to light. And Professor Ben Kirejara, former director of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, and also chairman of the Ugandan Bureau of Statistics, had this to say: other African countries should come to Nigeria and learn what transformation is all about.
Indeed, the World Bank considers statistics very important, because if you don't have appropriate data, if you don't have the element to measure, it's difficult to determine where you are going and what results that you have achieved. So we are supporting statistics actually more and more in most African countries. Here in Nigeria, we've been supporting the NBS, the National Bureau of Statistics, particularly in the major household surveys that they are deploying. But more and more we have increased our partnership. We have currently a facility, a grant of $10 million to help strengthen the capacity of the Bureau of Statistics, both at the federal level, but also to help develop Bureau of Statistics at state level.
So what are your thoughts about recent development in statistics in Nigeria and Africa at large?
Well, I will start off by talking about Nigeria. Historically, Nigeria is not used to having lots of data in the public. And that's one of the things we have tried to change at the National Bureau of Statistics recently. Because like I mentioned, statistics needs to get to the people that use the statistics. Otherwise, it ends up being numbers on a table in a website or in a document. And I think coming from a developing country where statistics was not emphasized, plans and programs were largely done without really paying attention to data, where even when we pay attention to data, we always quote data that is generated by external agencies, international organizations, to a situation where the country's statistical office is the one actually releasing their numbers and publishing. It's something that it's more or less new. But I think that's the direction. We have to get to the situation where, as Nigerians, we are comfortable producing and releasing our figures. We are comfortable debating and analyzing our figures. And it's a process. You get lots of controversy when numbers are controversial in every country. I know even in more developed countries, some of their unemployment numbers are controversial and political. So you can imagine Nigeria, that is still an emerging democracy. You still have individuals that may or may not want to accept certain facts that come up from the data. There's always those challenges. But I think we are maturing as a country where governments and individuals are now accepting figures as it is, as reality, and they are using those figures to now plan and to fix many of the problems that they have in their different states and different sectors. And I think that's the way to go. And one of the things you can cite for this is the rapid determination of many state governments in the last few years to set up their own state statistical offices. I think this is a realization of the importance of data, where many state governors, 2 years ago we had only about 3 state bureaus of statistics. Now we have about 13 or 14 in less than a year. I think that's an indication of an acknowledgement of the importance of data in planning, in programs, in policy generation for evidence-based planning and policy. And I think if our country keeps going this way, it will only work better, and our programs and policies may be more effective for the good of our country.
Thank you, sir. So where does NBS generate its data from?
NBS data is generated from exactly where it's meant to be generated from the people. We have 36 state offices, we have 6 zonal offices, we have almost 3,000 staff located in all these states, and their job on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly basis to go out into the field, whether it's to households to ask them their incomes, or to ask them their consumption, or to go to markets to check prices of goods and services, or to go to businesses, to establishments to check their profit and loss accounts. That is exactly where we get our data from. Our data is generated by our field officers that go into the field to collect this data, bring it back, we process, we analyze it, we apply our statistical tools to it, and then we generate these numbers.
But there's been so much said about NBS and great work they are doing. Sir, can you tell us your achievements since you joined NBS?
Well, I set targets for myself, and I set goals for myself, and I set goals for the National Bureau of Statistics. In terms of the personal goals I set for the National Bureau of Statistics, I think many of them have been fairly achieved. In terms of personal goals I set for myself, I still have a lot of things that I want to accomplish at the NBS that I haven't done yet. But I think all credit has to go to the excellent staff that we have at the National Bureau of Statistics. Their attitude to change, their support to my initiatives have been excellent. I have to acknowledge the fact that my supervising minister of National Planning has also been very, very supportive, very outspoken about the importance of data in every area. And I think I've been very lucky. The finance minister, the president themselves, and the vice president, they have all been very supportive of data production. So it has made my work a lot easier than it should have been. So I don't think I would say the achievement, whatever achievements they are, should be mine alone, because there are a lot of people, from my staff to my superiors, that made whatever little accomplishments we have been able to achieve in the last year or so possible.
You've done a lot, NBS has done a lot in increasing the profile of statistics at the federal level. How do we intend to take this to the sub-national level? Well,
NBS is in line with our Statistic Act, is also the coordinator of the National Statistical System. And the National Statistical System includes all producers and users of statistics, which includes the states and even at the local government level. And first of all, we try to ensure proper, effective statistical production and coordination at the national level. And then, starting from this year, we're actually moving to the state statistical offices with advocacy, with proper human capacity development, with linking their offices properly by developing statistical templates for them to use and training their staff to generate this data, which will be done largely by the NBS staff. So at the end of the day, it's a process of working together with state statistical offices, ensuring that they understand the procedures, the templates are agreed to gather the data, and then we start gathering the data with them so that it fits in automatically. Now, what we are going to do is what we have been doing is through a virtual private network to link our database here at the headquarters with databases at all the 36 state offices in the country, so that as they generate their data and push it into their state statistical offices, it's automatically linked into our database here at the headquarters. So information, data produced at different states automatically just flow into NBS, and we can now share the data, analyze it, and process it. That will make the whole process of data production, analysis, and dissemination faster and more effective.
So what are your plans going forward to further develop statistics in Nigeria?
Our plans are centered on information communication technology. Like I mentioned, we are gradually, to speed up the process of producing data and disseminating data, I mentioned that we are gradually moving away from paper-based questionnaires and instruments to more electronic instruments that are faster and more efficient and will create a lot less errors. We are also working towards increasing the volume of data that is produced. We set internal targets, which is international practice. At the beginning of the year, we set up a data calendar that basically specifies the different kinds of data we expect to produce for the year, and we set dates that this data is supposed to be expected. Not only does it directly set internal targets for us at the National Bureau of Statistics, it also informs the public when different data from NBS will be released, so it helps them to plan their different activities around those data releases. Now, to decide what data we should produce, because we can't yet produce all kinds of data because of funding as well as logistical problems, we ensure that whatever data we are producing is user-driven. So at the beginning of every year, we reach out to various data users in the private sector, in government, basically asking them, what are your priority in terms of data? What kind of data do you want to see? And based on the feedback we get from our data users, we now develop this data program for the year and set different timelines and targets. And then we go ahead and get this data. I think that is a significant improvement because it makes users able to plan their different activities around our data calendar and to also tell us the kinds of data they require, because data is meant to be user-driven, and the whole objective of data is for it to be used, and if data is not used, then it becomes useless. So that is basically what we have been doing, and we'll continue to do this moving forward. We'll make all our processes as electronic as possible, from the production process to the field work to the analysis, and as well as to dissemination, to ensure that we use more modern tools, more recent methodologies, to ensure that whatever numbers we put out there are very credible, are very reliable, and are also timely.
You know, there is a long story about you cannot plan without facts. So clearly there is a very strong link between planning and accurate and reliable statistics. And that's why for us, the regeneration of the statistical agency, the beefing it up and making it work efficiently is very, very critical to the whole planning machinery, because without data, you cannot really plan, or if you are planning, you're just wasting your time. This has really generated a wider interest. People are now seeing data not as something that is abstract, but as a very critical input into evidence-based decision making.
Aside from the regular quarterly GDP and monthly CPI surveys, over 9 nationwide surveys on various areas of Nigeria's development have been conducted in the past 2 years, with reports published. The focus areas of some of these studies include employment, welfare, indicators, trade, agriculture, industry, business, macroeconomics indicators, and others.
We cannot take monetary policy decisions without statistics that comes from NBS. We rely on them for GDP figures. We rely on them for inflation figures. And you know that price stability is one of our key mandates in central bank. And inflation is central to the whole mandate, to that whole mandate of achieving price stability. So the data they generate in that area, and many other areas too, even the breakdown, agriculture, these are information we want to know, whether there's been growth in the economy, which sector is growing, by how much are they growing, and so these are all information that we need to help us take the right decisions at the right time. It also helps us to know what the economy is doing, where we are. Are we growing? Are we not growing? If we're growing, by how much? Which sectors are growing? And what monetary policy decisions do we need to take to make sure that growth is sustainable and price stability is achieved? So it's very central, key to everything that we do.
The information provided by NBS is extremely useful for us because we consider that we need to use the information and the data produced by the countries to be credible. And for example, very recently we've worked very closely with NBS on the poverty data. Poverty data have been published recently. And for example, we are using the Global Household Survey to look at specific aspects of our program in Nigeria. Just to give you a specific example, we are currently doing a review of education, the education system in Nigeria, and we've been able to pull out the information on education system, but also on education outcomes in Nigeria, and that will inform the way we are moving forward. We are now developing and supporting the government on an important program, the Agricultural Transformation Agenda, and again, we've been using the statistics produced by the NBS on agriculture. We discussed with the statistician general who acknowledged the fact that, for example, in the area of agriculture, the surveys are outdated and there is a need now to maybe restructure and relaunch a series of fundamental surveys in key areas.
Multiple indicator cluster survey was conducted in March 2011, while the other one was Global Adult Tobacco Survey, conducted in 2012. They were done in collaboration with UNICEF and the WHO. The data collection for that was between June and September 2012. For the multiple indicator cluster survey, it was an applause for Nigeria at the International Workshop for Analysis and Dissemination of the Data, which was held in Dakar, Senegal, in 2011, where it was adjudged the best in the series of multiple indicator cluster survey conducted by Nigeria. The Global Adult Tobacco Survey were to be collected by 2 African countries, namely Nigeria and South Africa. Nigeria has successfully conducted that survey, and we are the only African country that have completed that survey. And as a result of the quality data that came out of that survey, Nigeria has been asked to assist Uganda to plan the pilot survey. And Nigeria has also been invited to come to Hong Kong to make presentation during the International Statistical Institute meeting coming up later this year.
Challenges faced and how you able to mitigate it?
Our major challenge still remains funding. NBS is still one of the, despite the increased attention to data and support I'm getting, it's still one of the least funded statistical agencies in the world. I know the statistical budget for even South Africa, for Kenya, is still significantly higher than Nigeria. Even the United States, Canada, with their sophistication in terms of ICT, have data production budgets that are 20, 30 times more than we have in Nigeria, where things are still done manually. So you can imagine the kind of challenge that gives us in terms of financing. But in a developing country like Nigeria, where data gathering has not really been historically been a big activity, you have to change people's perception where they are willing to give you data honestly. And again, this is still one of the challenges we get, because at the end of the day, the quality of the data we get is based on the quality of data we receive from the field. So if everybody is giving us wrong data, it's garbage in, garbage out. So we have to ensure that we sensitize the data, the people we are collecting data from, the respondents, to ensure that they give us data knowing fully well that our objective is not to audit them. Our objective is national development and building. So again, we get a little bit of resistance, but we mitigate this by taking time to explain to the respondents what we are doing, what the objective is, and how it is in their interest to ensure that they give us the right data. If we get the wrong pricing data, for example, we will misinform the central bank as far as inflation is concerned. The central bank will take a policy based on wrong inflation number that will end up affecting the same people that gave us the wrong number. So we have to explain to them that, look, what we are doing is more for you than us, and it's your interest to give us this data so that we can assist our government to do the right things for you, the people.
The needs of science and industry spur the growth of new statistical methods, but the field is very hampered by lack of computational power onto the development of the computer industry. Since then, statisticians have taken advantage of every advance in computer technology, and every advance in this computer technology has provided more data that need more novel statistical methods in implementing them. National Bureau of Statistics Nigeria is a forerunner in using modern technology communications tools in the dissemination and gathering of information. NBS, in responding to this growing demand, recently launched an upgrade of their website portal, which is an expansive collection of data compiled over the years. This means that data can previously existed only in print, requiring laborious efforts and time and resources to obtain, analyze, and report, is now accessible at everyone's fingertips. The NBS Improved website is also representative of a major tool in the achievement of its mandate. The website puts NBS among the most informative on the continent. It has a number of exciting features. It is user-friendly, interactive, dynamic, and up-to-date with quality content. Since the ultimate purpose of data is to enable us access the past, understand the present, as well as anticipate and prepare for the future. It is therefore our expectation that data obtained from NBS website will inform public policy, promote accountability and good governance, while facilitating the implementation of development interventions across Nigeria. Although the website and data portal will appeal to a broad section of the public, it will be of immeasurable benefit, particularly to researchers, students, and policymakers who are interested in making sense of trends in major socioeconomic indicators in Nigeria, and to assess the progress we are making, particularly in our national aspiration to become one of the largest 20 economies by 2020. www.nigerianstat.gov.ng. The positive transformation motivated the NBS to expand the scope through the NSDS National Strategy for Development of Statistics to cover both federal and state producers of statistics. The objective is to make the national statistical system in Nigeria one of the foremost and modern knowledge-based national statistical offices in Africa and the world at large. Now, the statistics of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory are being brought on board. Each state is expected to develop a state strategy for the development of statistics, SSDS, that would feed into the national strategy. The NBS, encouraged by its success of recent years, is pushing the envelope further by creating the highly integrated Nigerian data system, which will bring all data producers and users and agencies together through a virtual private network and connect them to the internet. That is the future. Though we have come a very long way, we're not there yet. A lot of work still needs to be done, but we're prepared. We will do it. We will take statistics in Nigeria to its next level.
My last message to Nigerians on statistical development is to bear with the National Bureau of Statistics. The National Bureau of Statistics is essentially 7 years old, probably one of the youngest statistical offices in the world. It's a process. We will get more and more data for Nigerians. We are committed to that, and it's our mandate, and we intend to achieve and accomplish our mandate to the letter. But at the same time, we would appeal to Nigerians to support us even as we try to achieve this mandate by cooperating more with our enumerators, our data collectors, because at the end of the day, the quality of our work depends largely on the quality of the responses they give us.